Welcome to the Canned Wine Podcast, where we open cans of wine and talk about it. We are in Season 3, Episode 30, which happens to be our 100th episode. And today and this year, we are bringing the world in a can. And today we are off to the west coast of North America, to Washington State, with a slight twist. Are you there, Ken?
I sure am.
We got our intrepid wine explorer and canned wine opener, Ken, with us. Ken is not in Washington State, but you are kind of on the west coast. Where are you located today, Kenny?
I'm in Whitehorse, Yukon, way up north, right next to Alaska.
Exactly. And Kenny's been good enough to take a can of our can of the week with him up there. But before we get to our can of the week, let's do what we do here, which is the Wine Nerd Word of the Week, which this week is brought to you by Dr. Ronald S. Jackson, whose great book, Wine Science, provided this explanation of barrel fermentation. Now, we know that people age wine in barrels, but they also ferment them in barrels, and this really adds some interesting flavors to the wine. It imparts flavors in wines that are aged in them. As you can imagine, those vanilla flavors and the smokiness of a barrel. So that's barrel fermentation, our Wine Nerd Weird of the Week. And that brings us directly into the can of the week, which is the 14 Hands Winery Unicorn, as they call it, Rosé with Bubbles. Now, this is a big can, a 355 milliliter. And for those of you that have been following us through this 100 episodes, you would know that 355 is actually half a bottle of wine. So it's a heavy hitter. And this is sort of the standard beer can size. It's 12% alcohol per volume. It's brought to us by the winemaker Zach Richardson, and he's a native Washington State person. Now, the wine itself comes from their winery in Prosser, Washington, and Washington State produces some excellent wines, and lots of it. If they were compared to California, they'd be second largest wine producing state in America. And keep in mind that California is the fourth largest wine producing area in the world. So they're right up there. And now this wine was purchased at De Perez Wines and Liquors, locally here in Croton-on-Hudson at 440 South Riverside Drive. And those guys are great wine merchants. They have a very limited selection. They always have this 14 Hands Rosé, and now they brought in the 14 Hands Pinot Grigio that we will try a little later in the season. But they're very knowledgeable and helpful, and if you only had 2 cans of wine, maybe it's a good thing to have something like this that's very accessible and very tasty. So what about the rosé method? What makes it a rosé? Well, when they are preparing it, after they do the crushing, they leave the skins in contact with the wine for a certain period of time that brings that flavor, some of the tannins, and the fruity flavors into the wine. Then they cool ferment it in stainless steel tanks, and that also helps with the fruity flavors. And it is of note that these grapes are all from Washington State, from around the Columbia Valley. So, Kenny, I know you traveled through, 2 airports and thousands of miles, and no problem traveling with these cans in your suitcase?
No, actually, it's quite nice because they were in the airplane compartment, so the can is actually nice and chilled.
Yeah, and this should be served a little bit chilled. That's the traditional way to serve a rosé. So as we do on the Canned Wine Podcast, episode 1 or episode 100, we should get ready to open this can. Are you ready there in Whitehorse, Ken?
I'm ready because it's after 5 o'clock here, so I've been ready all day for this moment.
Exactly. As a responsible wine drinker, we don't generally drink until after supper or at 5 o'clock. So without any further ado, let's do this.
Mine's open.
Well, that is a very nice rosé color.
Stand by. Oh, yeah, beautiful.
Almost an amber. I smell those fruity flavors. They said to be on the lookout for cranberry, cherry, pomegranate.
Sure, it's carbonated. Is that the word?
Yes, it is a carbonated wine. Now they carbonate that at bottling. It's not made like champagne where it carbonates itself, but well done. And we had tried an earlier vintage of this in a previous episode and were quite impressed. So they have not failed us with this one. It's definitely quite drinkable.
Nice and crisp.
It is crisp. Very low sugar content was the way this was built, and I don't disagree with that. And they're very good at both marketing and producing this wine. It's a well done. Now, as we move into the enjoying this wine stage, which sometimes happens off of camera, I'd just like to say a bit of a shout out to all the people that helped us to get to 100 episodes. We started with a simple idea, which was opening a can of wine and talking about it. We added in a few things here and there along the line, but mostly that's what we've done. And it's been an interesting journey because we've had many vintages, many types of wine. We've tasted grapes from all around the world. And, 100 cans is, they're not all half can bottles like this. There's a few of them in there, but overall we say about 3 cans per bottle. So that's 33 bottles of wine in 3 years or 3 seasons. So it ends up being a little bit less than a bottle of wine per month. So not a lot of wine, but a lot of enjoyment. And you can do that because each can be a separate type, and it's been very good. Kenny, you've been on a number of these adventures with us in some interesting location. I think we did another one up there in Whitehorse a while back. Maybe 3 times we've done that, right?
Yeah, could be, yeah. They keep bringing me back here. I do chainsaw safety training for a First Nations group not far from Whitehorse here called Carcross Tagish. So they keep bringing me back, and I sure enjoy coming back. I love it here.
Well, we enjoy you.
Beautiful country.
We enjoy you taking a can of wine with you and taking the time to enjoy it with us and discuss it. So we appreciate that. We also appreciate Catherine, who helped us kick off the season this year in Regina, Saskatchewan. We appreciate her efforts, and her stylings were very good. She sent us some nice pictures of her wine, a couple of episodes, even some out in the blizzardy tundra of Regina. We've got Jamie in Gimli, Manitoba, better known for Crown Royal than canned wine, but he also helps us out occasionally with both non-alcoholic as well as alcohol or regular traditional wines. We've got Dean, our Dean of De-alcoholization, due to a scheduling mess up, wasn't able to join us today. This is supposed to be a double episode, but we'll add the 100A version or 100NA version to the thing shortly with Dean, because he's out in Oklahoma right now, and we weren't able to get the schedules synced up, but he's been a frequent contributor, and we've enjoyed his knowledge of spin distillation and these sorts of things. It's been really a big help, and one of the fiercest architects I know, Brett in New Jersey, also helped on a number of episodes, and he wasn't able to join us today, although I did see him on Friday, and we had a long discussion about the trajectory, if you will, of the Canned Wine podcast. So, and we hope that all of you people, and maybe a few additional people, would join us to celebrate canned wine and learn a bit about wine and how it's produced and the wine industry and what makes a good canned wine. So thanks again, Ken, for joining us today. It's been very, very great and greatly appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'd just like to say congratulations on your 100th episode.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I remember the 10th episode it's like, wow, we've got 10 episodes. But now 3 seasons later and a couple of formats. We're still on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We've got a good feed going on Instagram. And we're starting to make a few ripples. And we were able to help sponsor the International Canned Wine competition. We started that last season and have really taken to that this year. That's in Mendocino County, California. And that's coming up at the end of July. So we're hoping to continue to participate with them. Those guys, they do good work and are serious wine people. So just because it comes in a can doesn't mean that it's a budget wine or something that you wouldn't want to drink. There have been some very good wines, some stuff out of Australia, the stuff from Europe, of course. They're noted for their winemaking. It's been an interesting journey, so we appreciate it. Now, the way we end these things is with our head scratcher, and our head scratcher answer for last week, I think you even got the right answer, Kenny. What was the periodic table number for gold? Do you remember off the top, or you want me to give it to you?
No, yeah, give it to me. Give it to me again.
I think it was 79 is the number for gold, and that was factored into our wine last week. And our question, this one, is a bit of a retrospective because we're in that mood tonight. What episode had the first head scratcher, and what was the first head scratcher? That's definitely worth a thank you card and possibly some additional swag. If anybody's interested and you want to look at it, go to eBay and search The Canned Wine Podcast. You'll see copies of the knit caps or toques. No, knit caps or toques, as well as the hats. They're for sale on eBay, and you can check that out. If you want to see it on YouTube, watch at the end of this episode. You see Ken with the mountains of Whitehorse in the background and his knit cap on his toque. So thank you for taking that up there and enjoying this wine, Ken.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome anytime. It's always a pleasure, always a pleasure.
In closing, we'd like to thank you, as always, for tuning into the Canned Wine Podcast, where we open cans of wine and talk about it. Remember to enjoy responsibly, and just because it comes in a can doesn't mean you should drink and drive. The Canned Wine Podcast is a Center Stage production, all rights reserved.